Cliffe Knechtle once said, "Hell is not a torture chamber. God does not throw people into hell. People choose hell." A thought-provoking statement indeed. Knechtle, in his unique perspective, suggests that hell is not a punishment inflicted by a wrathful deity, but a path chosen by individuals themselves. Imagine a place not designed as a fiery pit of torment, but as a consequence of personal choices, a destination arrived at by one's own actions and decisions. This interpretation removes the blame from a divine figure and places it squarely on human shoulders. Knechtle's view flips the conventional understanding of hell on its head, painting it not as a realm of eternal suffering doled out by an angry god, but a self-chosen state of being, a bitter fruit of one's own choices. This perspective challenges the traditional view of hell as a place of torment and punishment. In the early stages of his spiritual journey, Cliffe Knechtle had a different understanding of hell. Cliffe Knechtle, a man on a mission to understand the intricacies of faith, initially held a view of hell that was steeped in traditional religious teachings. He saw it as a place of eternal punishment, a fiery abyss where souls were banished for their sins. This perception was not uncommon. Many of us, like Knechtle, have grown up hearing tales of this dreaded place, a realm of despair and endless torment. In his early years, Knechtle's understanding was deeply influenced by the literal interpretations of religious texts. Hell was a tangible place, a location with geographical dimensions. It was the final destination for those who strayed from the righteous path, who chose to live a life of sin. The intensity of this view was such that it painted a picture of a vengeful God, one who punishes transgressions with an eternal sentence in a burning inferno. This perspective can often instill fear and trepidation, overshadowing the concepts of love, forgiveness, and redemption that are also central to many faiths. And it was this contrast that began to stir questions in Knechtle's mind. He started to wonder if this interpretation was indeed the only way to understand hell. He questioned if this was the only way to reconcile the idea of a loving God with the existence of an eternal place of punishment. A man of deep thought and reflection, Knechtle began to grapple with these questions, wrestling with the traditional views that he had held for so long. The seeds of doubt were sown, and it was this curiosity, this desire for understanding, that would later lead to a significant shift in his perspective. But the human mind is a curious thing, and Knechtle's was no different. As he delved deeper into his faith, he began to see that there were more layers to this concept of hell, more nuances that needed to be explored. He realized that this place, so often depicted as a realm of fire and brimstone, could also be interpreted in different ways. However, his view of hell evolved over time. As Cliffe Knechtle delved deeper into his faith, his conception of hell began to change. In the early years, Knechtle's understanding of hell was more traditional, more in line with the fire and brimstone depictions often associated with Christianity. Hell was a place of punishment, a destination for those who turned their backs on God. But Knechtle's understanding of hell began to evolve as he delved deeper into his faith. His perspective started to shift, moving away from the view of hell as a punitive place. Instead, he began to see it as a chosen path, a destination not forced upon individuals, but one they walked towards with their choices. Knechtle's interpretation of hell started to pivot on the pillar of free will. He began to see hell less as a physical place of torment and more as a state of being, a consequence of choosing to distance oneself from God. Hell, in Knechtle's evolving view, became less about punishment and more about personal choice and the ramifications of that choice. The evolution of these views wasn't a sudden shift, it was a gradual change, influenced by his ongoing studies, his interactions with others, and his personal reflections on faith and spirituality. His perception of hell became less about fear and more about understanding the importance of one's choices in life. This evolution in Knechtle's understanding of hell also reflected a broader change in his approach to faith. It was a shift from viewing faith as a set of rules to be followed to understanding it as a personal journey, a relationship with the divine that was unique to each individual. Knechtle's evolving views on hell, then, are not just about a change in understanding of a specific aspect of faith. They are reflective of a larger transformation in his approach to spirituality, an embrace of the complexities of faith and the role of personal choice within it. This evolution in his views reflected a deeper understanding of free will and personal choice in relation to faith. Today, Cliffe Knechtle maintains a unique perspective on hell. Not one to shy away from controversial subjects, Knechtle's current views on hell are as thought-provoking as they are unconventional. In Knechtle's perspective, hell is not a place of fire and brimstone, nor is it a divine punishment meted out by an angry God. Instead, he sees it as a direct consequence of personal choice. He posits, quite compellingly, that hell is the result of a conscious decision to live away from God, a choice made by individuals during their time on Earth. Knechtle's viewpoint is deeply rooted in the concept of free will, a cornerstone of many religious philosophies. He maintains that God, in his infinite love and wisdom, allows each individual the freedom to choose their path. This freedom, he argues, extends beyond our earthly lives into the afterlife. Hell, in Knechtle's vision, is not a divine verdict. It is the manifestation of a personal choice to live apart from the divine love and grace offered by God. He suggests that those who choose to deny God's existence or reject his love essentially choose to create their own hell. This is not to say that Knechtle believes hell to be a desirable or even neutral place. On the contrary, he often speaks about the profound sadness and emptiness one would experience in such a state of self-imposed isolation from the divine. Knechtle's interpretation of hell is a radical departure from traditional religious teachings, which often depict it as a place of eternal torment ruled by the devil. His perspective shifts the focus from divine judgment to personal responsibility. In essence, Knechtle's view of hell challenges us to rethink our understanding of divine justice and personal accountability. It invites us to consider the role our choices play in shaping our eternal destiny. His perspective challenges traditional religious views and invites thoughtful discussion. Let's summarize the key points in Cliffe Knechtle's views on hell. Firstly, Cliffe Knechtle began his theological journey with a conventional understanding of hell. He believed it to be a place of eternal torment, a punishment for those who reject God's love and salvation. But as he delved deeper into his faith, his views started to evolve. What sets Knechtle apart is his belief that hell is not a punishment imposed by an angry God. Instead, he views it as a self-chosen path. According to Knechtle, every individual has the freedom to choose between a life with God or a life separate from him. Those who choose the latter, he believes, are essentially opting for their own version of hell. Knechtle further elaborates this concept by saying that hell is not a fiery pit, but rather a state of eternal separation from God. He describes it as the ultimate loneliness, the most profound form of isolation one could experience. This perspective shifts the focus from the physical torments traditionally associated with hell to the emotional and spiritual anguish of being cut off from the divine. Another key point in Knechtle's views is his emphasis on God's love and mercy. He believes that God does not desire for anyone to go to hell, but respects the free will he has given to mankind. Knechtle underscores the importance of this choice, pointing out that our decisions in the present life can have eternal consequences. In terms of the afterlife, Knechtle doesn't see hell as an end, but rather a state of existence. He suggests that those who choose to live without God in this life will continue to do so in the afterlife, experiencing the repercussions of their choice. In conclusion, Cliffe Knechtle's views on hell are a departure from traditional interpretations. He presents hell not as a place, but a state of being, not as imposed punishment, but chosen isolation, and not as God's desire, but a consequence of human free will. Cliffe Knechtle's views on hell offer a fresh perspective on a traditionally feared concept. In conclusion, Cliffe Knechtle's views on hell challenge us to reconsider our own beliefs. His perspective is indeed unique. He offers us a distinct lens through which to view the concept of hell, one that is starkly different from the traditional fire and brimstone depiction that has been ingrained in so many of us. Knechtle's ideas invite us to engage in a thoughtful examination of our ideas about the afterlife, probing us to ask ourselves what we really believe about hell and why. He encourages us to delve deeper into our understanding of justice, freedom and choice, and how these concepts intertwine with the idea of eternal punishment or separation from God. His views present a compelling argument that hell is not a place of divine retribution, but rather a consequence of human choice. In this light, hell becomes a symbol of the ultimate respect for human freedom. As Cliffe Knechtle said, "Hell is not a torture chamber. God does not throw people into hell. People choose hell."